Thank you, everybody, for joining. Welcome in. This is Kei Nishida. He's the founder of Dream of Japan and Japanese green tea company. Could you introduce yourself to everyone and kind of give them a little bit of background about you and your company?
Yes, thank you very much, Neldon, and thank you very much for everyone joining. My name is Kei Nishida, and I'm the owner of the Dream of Japan and Japanese Green Tea Company. You might have heard of Japanese Green Tea Company more than the Dream of Japan. Dream of Japan is the umbrella company of the Japanese Green Tea Company. We also have Japanese Coffee Company, Japanese Knife Company, and so forth. But yeah, I currently live in the USA, and I was born and raised in Japan, but I moved to the US around when I was 14, and yeah, I love tea.
That's awesome. So, what inspired you to start Japanese Green Tea Company and really get into Japanese green teas and bring those to a wider audience?
So it was 10 years ago. Back then, I was working for a project in India, and at that time, of course, I love tea, and I always bring the tea from this particular farm, Arahataen, to the India, or when I go back to US, I bring it because people love it. And someone in India, they asked me they want to, have this tea for their wedding. And I said, okay, sure. Wedding is a big deal in India because they have, it's pretty. They have a lot of celebration going on multiple days, and it was very honored for my friend to ask me. So I tried to say, I tried to order it from online, and I couldn't because in India, all the credit card company was blocked from Japan, and all the logistics, everything was so hard. So I just decided to pick up the phone and call Arahata, which is one of my most favorite tea that I like. And they were helping me. They helped me to bring the tea over, and now with Arahata, we started to sell them in the U.S. and all over everywhere else. So that's the initial story what happened.
That's awesome. So how have you found it like selling teas to the Western market? Are there any specific challenges that you've really faced when bringing like Japanese tea and getting people to drink high quality Japanese tea?
It is quite difficult. It was quite difficult initially because when we started back 10 years ago, there weren't too many options. And right now, there are a lot more options for people to get the tea. But back then, we had to, try out different ways to, ship over the tea and even have them agree. So there are so many farms out there in Japan, but right now they are starting to hire a lot of English-speaking people, but they can't speak English, and I wanted to get real good tea. So like Arahata is one of them. That is a small farm, very caring about their tea and so forth, but they don't have any intention to sell it outside the U.S. Outside Japan. So being to convince them and figure out the logistics to ship it over is one of the hardest part for us, and yeah, that has been hard. But now it's probably easier because there are so many companies doing that. Also, we help people to buy the tea in a wholesale as well. So
That's awesome. So alongside that, how do you see like appreciation for Japanese green tea growing in the US or in the Western like market in general? Do you see more people wanting things like sencha and teas like that, or have you seen a growth in that?
yeah, it's a lot of demand right now, especially like it's a matcha boom right now. So it's there is a lot of demand in the US thanks to all the people trying it out. Like in Japan, it is very matcha wasn't that popular before. So people are drinking more of a sencha, which is what Neldon is drinking right
This
there.
is Isaku. So this is the Fukamushi Sencha. And for those that aren't familiar with Japanese green tea, fukamushi basically is a deep steam. So in the processing, they steam it for a little bit longer than they usually would. And I find it produces a more kind of a rich, rounded broth, and it makes it like very nice and thick. And you can see the color on this tea, especially, is just gorgeous. It's beautifully vibrant. It's one of my favorites.
I'm glad you like it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, this is phenomenal. I used about 70 degrees Celsius water, or because I usually go a little bit colder for my fukamushi, but it's phenomenal. Um, so along that, you mentioned like matcha. I've heard everywhere that there's a matcha shortage in Japan, and they can't keep up with the global demand for it. Is that true? And if so, like how are companies like yours trying to meet that demand and trying to fill that gap?
Yes, it is true, and especially in the Kyoto area, there is like a real shortage. And even for us, we actually have a 2 kilogram cap for the ceremonial matcha that we won the global tea champion a month. So that's been quite difficult for us because we now offer a lot of wholesale customers, but wholesale customers want more than 2 kilograms definitely, and also that we want to serve the retail customers who are buying one pack at a time. So we had to say no to some of the wholesale customers so that we can retain some for the retail customers. So it has been really a challenge. The challenge for the matcha shortage is also augmented by the current time as well. We posted the story about Golden Week in Japanese tea on the blog. We call it story, but on the blog, this is the busiest time for the Japanese farm. In Japan, many of you may know that Golden Week is one of the longest holiday in the beginning of May, and so many people take the holiday, but the tea farm don't, because the May time is the new crop time when we crop all the tea, and they are so busy. So matcha shortage is there, but at the same time, the busyness of all the new crop season is there, and it's very hard to talk with the tea farm right now. Luckily, we have a good relationship. But some tea companies in Japan, they post on the front page, and I have an example of it on our blog that they said, please do not contact. No, not please do not contact. But they're saying that they are very busy and they will contact back in the beginning of June or middle of June because they just cannot handle the demand. So it's quite difficult right now, especially right now.
Oh yeah. I've heard from some other friends in Japan that some of the farmers are now switching to some of the teas that they would make for like higher grades of sencha. They're trying to turn those in, or they're like harvesting them earlier as tencha and making them into matcha. Is that something that you've heard is happening as well?
Yeah, I have heard of it. Our tea do not do it that way, but we hear that some companies do that.
So this is just kind of an interesting question I just have. One of the viewers had messaged me about this. Single cultivar teas, do you guys do a lot of those, or do you, I know it's very common in Japan to blend different farms so you can get like a consistent flavor profile. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you prefer single cultivar, or is it kind of a mix?
That's a good question. Cultivar, for those people who don't know, is like I try to explain it like wine variety, where it's all wine and grape, but it's a different Pinot Noir versus Cab and so forth, right? Our tea, most of the Japanese green tea company tea are Yabukita single cultivar. Yabukita is the most common tea type that is sold in Japan, and that is good. But we also offer some other cultivars as well. For instance, we carry this Benifuki tea, which is a blend of Indian Assam cultivar and the Kagoshima cultivar called Benihomare. And they crossbreed between those two to make this Benifuki tea. And pretty new tea, but happened to be that it's good they produce a lot of methylated catechin,
Mm.
which is good for us. So unexpected things happen for the cross cultivar tea. So it's interesting to know about them, and there are so many varieties also. But it's interesting area to talk about.
That's awesome. Yeah. I have some friends that are like really specific into love, like they love to learn about the cultivars and more of the science side of things and the agricultural science side. And so they were like, please ask about the single cultivar. um, so World Tea Expo is where I met you. You had a booth there, and it was really awesome being able to try your products, especially that Japanese coffee. That was phenomenal. But you swept the awards for green tea at the awards ceremony. What was that like for you, both as a person and for your company?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's on this live session. Many of you are our customer and followers. And thanks to you, we exist and we were able to get these awards. So I want to thank you. Of course, Tea Farm worked hard and we worked hard, but without you, we couldn't. So thank you so much. The tea ceremony was very interesting. You were there in Neldon, and the video there and on our blog as well. We were called onto a stage, and Ravi from David's Tea was one of the judges and was presenting the award. Ravi might be there in the live. He said he might. But yeah, it's a big deal for us because David's Tea is like a huge, especially in Canada, right? So we were called onto the stage and they gave us this piece of paper, nice piece of paper that looks like a good from the graduation. And we shake hands with Ravi and we go off the stage. We are so excited and they were shooting the photo. And when they were shooting the photo, they called us one more time, saying, Japanese green tea company, Matcha. They're like, what? And everyone was like, what? Because they had 5 categories of matcha competition going on, and we won all the 5 of them. So we were called upon the stage 5 times, and everyone was just, laughing while smiling. And we were so excited. And the second time, instead of paper, they gave us a little trophy. Like, whoa, this is. And the third time, they gave us a bigger trophy. The fourth time, it's like a bigger trophy. And the 5th one was the grand prize, which is this one that we have. I don't have all 5 of them, but this one's smaller than the last one. But yeah, this is the grand prize one, and it was quite an interesting experience. And of course, a lot of people ask about our matcha the next day, and still now. So I really thank people who support us to get this tea to be the champion.
That's amazing. It was really fun watching, and I think Rami even joked. He's like, "It's no surprise the next winner is Japanese green tea company," and they just kept calling you guys up, and so like the whole audience was really enjoying that too, and seeing you guys all walk up there. And we just had somebody comment saying it was so very well deserved recognition and awards, and I definitely agree. I mean, just from this Isaku alone. It is very high quality sencha, and it's really amazing. And I can see why you guys swept the awards for matcha this year. So, alongside with the World Tea Awards, I kind of want to ask about that. What do you think makes for a good matcha? How do you select a matcha? Are there like characteristics you really look for when you're talking with your different tea farmers to try and get a good quality matcha?
So one of the things that I want to mention, which tea companies might not like to hear this, I'll share. I don't. Is this term ceremonial matcha? Don't fall for it. It's
Okay.
It's a Bachelor of Science in Matcha History because
Okay.
so everyone calls the matcha ceremonial, ceremonial that, and ask, okay, do you have ceremonial? I want ceremonial. And I want to mention that this term is overly used and wrongly used because there's no one who is watching over this ceremonial term. So people always think the is better, and there are so many terms like a premium, good tea, this, whatever. But the ceremonial is supposed to be the best.
Oh,
Um, and that's not what you want to look for, the term. For instance, right, like organic tea, there is a organization that governs that this has to be followed, this in order to make the tea to be organic. But when it comes to ceremonial, anyone can call it ceremonial.
mm,
So what I want to mention to you is don't look for the word, but I would say suggest the story behind who
mm,
is behind this tea and how are they making it. For instance, our matcha is grown in a sugarcane soil, which makes our tea naturally sweet.
mm,
So on the bed of the tea farm, we use sugarcane, and that sugar element goes through the roots into the tea leaf. That makes
mm.
the tea less astringent and less sweet. So
Okay.
that is the story behind the tea. So if you're looking for the tea, the first thing I would ask is, okay, who is making it? How are they making it? And is there a story behind it? If
Mm,
that resonates, I will try it out. And afterward, I think the one that you like is the best tea
mm,
that you.
mm. Okay. So for you personally, what do you really look for when you're tasting matcha? Is there something that like are there certain characteristics that you really want to have like in your cup to be able to say this is a good matcha and this is something I'm willing to serve to people?
I like, of course, I like our tea. So I like less astringent. Astringency always kind of turns me down.
Mm,
Astringency, bitterness. So I want to smell more of the actual tea itself and not overly bitter. Some people like the bitterness of it, but I like more of a subtle sweetness and
mm,
say umami that comes is it's kind of like a buttery feel that you feel in this side.
mm.
That's a trigger for me to say that I like. But yeah,
Okay.
less is what I usually look for.
Okay. So going along with this kind of bit on tasting Japanese green teas, for people that are new to green teas, where do you think they should start if they're wanting to get into Japanese green teas? Is there something that you think is more beginner friendly, and do you need things like a kyusu to brew the Japanese tea?
Where to get from us,
Okay.
from us. But yeah, we even have a tea finder on our website where it asks you the questions to to find you the best tea.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, where to look? Yeah, so that's that. And you asked about the kyusu.
mhm,
So I want to talk about the kyusu here.
mhm,
So when you look for like a kyusu, for instance, kyusu is used for the loose leaf tea, and
mhm,
some people might know the difference. Like a loose leaf tea, it looks like this. This is a saku that Neldon is steeping. It's a loose leaf. Matcha is like this, where it's a powder, right? The kyusu you would use it, of course, for the loose leaf tea,
mhm,
but there are certain types of kyusu that is good as well. For instance, for the fukamushi tea, which is loose deep steam tea that Neldon was explaining, it
mhm,
is better to have the kyusu with a fine mesh like this.
mhm.
Uh,
Okay.
Fine mesh because deep steaming breaks up the tea into a smaller pieces, so you don't get the large pieces.
Mhm,
And having the finer mesh makes it easier so that it doesn't strain. That it strains well.
mhm.
So that's the thing. Did I answer your question?
Okay, yes, yeah. So now I just got one of our guests is asking you to talk more about the different brewing vessels. So I know other people use the shibori dashi. Um,
Hmm.
what do you think is a better way for people who are beginners that might not have a kyusu? Or is there a difference when you're brewing? Do you prefer using a kyusu or a shibori dashi? Or does it depend on the tea?
So one of the things that I often do is a cold brew. Um, So yeah, for the hot one, if you have to like what Neldon is showing, that's great. Um, for the hot one, one trick that I have, well, not trick, you have to buy, but there is a teapot that is made with a clay called Tokoname teapot. We sell this one on our site. Um, the clay, it makes the tea's chemical. It bonds with the chemical iron chemical of the tea and changes the iron, which makes the tea better. Tea tastes better. So that is something that you can easily enhance your tea.
Okay.
Another thing is a cold steeping is my favorite, where you would put this tea in like a jar in the water, preferably soft water, not hard water. Uh, you keep that in a refrigerator overnight, and then you pour over on an ice glass, or you can actually heat that up to make it warmer. What makes the cold steeping makes the tea less bitter. Again, I don't like the bitterness much, so cold steeping like that's especially the summer is coming up in the northern hemisphere, and it is my favorite one.
That's awesome. So you'd mentioned like you have the tokoname kyusu. I know in Chinese tea there's the yixing and there's different types of clay, and there's yellow clay, there's the red clay, purple clay. With Japanese teaware, do they have different grades of clay like that, or is it all just kind of like one specific type per that region?
Yeah, the region is what often separates from one type to another, but clay-wise, it's often you don't hear the differences except like the tokoname. The way that they make often is different, but yeah, you don't see much of the differences in the clay itself.
Okay. So if you're going to get a clay kyusu, you should look for something that's tokoname, like the ones that you sell, like that one.
Sounds like I'm still selling, but it's my favorite. I
Okay.
don't care, you don't feel like it.
That's beautiful. So, um, Americans traditionally like very sweet teas, and like even like matcha. One of the biggest reasons matcha is popular is because people get like matcha lattes and things like that. How do you cater to a sort of American palate that likes things really sweet and strong flavors?
Yes. So in Japan, people frown upon us meaning in America, putting a sugar or honey in the tea. And but I have been living here for the last 30 years or so, and I know that, and I like the sweet tea. So we have been, showing on our website. We have a lot of, way to sweeten the tea and so forth, the video and so forth. But one of the things that we've been working on is these two tea that we are introducing. It's not on the website yet. This is called Tokyo Peppermint and the Yokohama Peach. Meldo, if you don't mind, I'm gonna send you some.
Yeah, no, please, please.
Yeah, we have been working on this one for quite a while now, and it's about ready. And we have been sharing on the local event. If any of you are in San Diego, this coming Saturday, we have an event at the Bread and Salt, which is art museum. So you can stop by and try it. Um, but in any case, sorry, Sunday, not Saturday. Um, yeah, but on our local event, we have been asking people how people think about this, and then adjusting and so forth. But these are the sweet tea that we have been working on. We'll be publishing pretty soon. We just finished the photo shoot, and it's not on our website yet. People have been saying like this design. People like. This is designed by our uh, chief branding officer. Nippon designed these more like a modern Japanese style design. So yeah, people have been loving the design and the tea. So follow us so that when we are ready to make it public, we can try them out. So yeah, these are the sweet teas.
Okay.
These are answer to the people who want the sweet tea.
That's awesome. So for those of you that are watching and like sweeter teas, make sure you give them a follow and you watch for that to come out because those will be coming out soon. But that's amazing that you're working on kind of providing a nice blend where you can cater to people that really want the more sweet teas, but then you offer things like the isaku for people that like more of the pure leaf. It's awesome. So with that, let me see. I had these two questions come in from another friend. With Japanese green teas, there's been a revival in certain styles of tea, like goishicha. Do you know of any other like historic types of tea in Japan that are being brought back, or that are more like regional specialties or anything like that?
So a lot of historical things in Japan, it's called chabanare, where tea people tend to drink a lot more tea in the past, but not now. Unfortunately, a lot of younger folks, younger people, including us, are not drinking as much tea as earlier, and uh, tea farms are having a hard time. That's actually killing a lot of tradition as well. Um, One of the things that I can think of is our tea from Arahata, and our tea is, we say growing sugarcane soil, but that's actually a method called Chagusaba method, which is a very traditional method that has been used for a long time, but it is dying in Japan because of the labor. So the Chagusaba method, meaning that during the winter time, the tea is tea dirt bed of the tea plant is covered with the different elements, and that is to actually originally to keep the roots from freezing, but it actually also augments the taste of the tea because of the elements that's mixed in and put over the bed. Now, that is a lot of work because you can imagine that during the winter time, a lot of laborers are being used to mix those dirt and then add it on the tea bed and so forth. And that tradition is being dying year by year. But Arahatayan is one of the very rare farms that actually uses the traditional way in retaining. So we are very proud that by providing our tea, we can sustain the dying culture that we hope to carry on to the next generations.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So I just got another question here from someone. They want to know if the shape and size of the cup that you use can impact the taste of the tea and the smell of the tea, things like that.
That's an interesting question I never thought of.
Yeah, because I know like in Japan, what are they? It's is it Unomi, the cup? Yes, yes. So like they use more of that. I like the wider lipped cups myself for things, but I do have a Unomi as well.
So
I know for Chinese tea, the shape of the cup can impact the aromas that you get off of it, which can kind of smell is a big component towards taste. And so I know, like with the wider rims, it kind of lets things cool down a little bit more and lets those volatile organic compounds, or what they call them, VOCs, or like the things that make tea smell good. And as it cools down, it helps those kind of lock in and get up to your nose a little bit better, which is why you usually see either smaller, wider rim ones, or sometimes you'll see ones that are really tall and thin for like more floral teas. Does Japan have things like that, or is it kind of just a cup is a cup?
That is an interesting thought that I never thought of. So I'm sorry, I do not know. Now that makes me curious. Like in a wine, they have a different glasses for different variety also. So that's something I want to think about. Thing that I can think of doesn't really matter for the shape, but smaller cup is my preference, smaller teapot and smaller cup. The reason is um, um, we have multiple steeping. So first steeping, so you put the hot water and the steep. That
Mhm.
first cup we call it isenme, and then the second you drink the first cup, and then the second time you actually pour over on using the same leaf, and then pour over the hot water and drink.
Mhm.
That's called nisenme, 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 sansenme. It's actually quite interesting how the tea tastes between those three.
Mm.
So having a smaller cup and having a small kyusu and thinking about that consciously and
Mhm.
drinking multiple steeping is another fun part of drinking
Mhm.
with a small cup and small
Mhm.
teapot.
So I just want to show everyone. This is the second steep here of the Isaku. You can see it's still just a beautiful, very vibrant green. It's very, very reminiscent of spring, and it's absolutely delicious. It's very sweet. You can tell a difference in that sugarcane soil, because like I've had other fukamushi sencha before, and you get more of a brothy umami flavor. With this one, there's a really nice sweetness that lingers after you drink it. So it's really, really lovely. But
And here.
let's see list here. So what are some of the like biggest myths or misunderstandings with Japanese green tea or Japanese tea in general? Because you had mentioned like that with ceremonial grade, that's not really a thing. Which I love that you brought that up because that's something that people I think need to realize is that it's not really a category in Japan. It's more of like a Western marketing tactic. Are there other things like that that you think people need to know about?
I can tell you one more thing. Maybe the tea company is going to hate me after this. I want to be honest. So
Mhm.
the term organic. Uh,
Mm.
I want people to understand what that means. So organic is a good thing, of course. No pesticides and all is very important.
Mm.
And we actually, by the way, last year the FDA in the U.S. tightened the organic importing, so everyone is going crazy because we have organic certificate to import. It's called
Mm.
NOPID, National Organic Program Import Certificate. Without that, FDA is tightening so that people cannot import the organic products.
Mm.
So the Japanese farm cannot export. The people here without the NOPID like we do, they cannot import. So people are going like WTF, World Tea Foundation, right?
Mm.
WTF. So it was like going crazy last year, and that's another reason why the matcha is short in the shortage because of this logistic complexity that's going on right now.
Mm.
But I want people to understand what is really going on under the organic, especially in Japan. So in Japan, usually the pesticides and so forth are, although it's not regulated, it's not commonly used in other part of the world, and
Mm.
it's very conservative. So from Japanese in Japan, from Japanese tea farm, it's very hard to find the farms that is using too much of the pesticides.
Mm.
Now, when it comes to organic, in Japan, organic is not that popular like in the US and European countries. Especially in the tea farm, what happens really in the organic tea industry is that the farms that want the organic are mostly two types. One is a
Mm.
large corporation. Another is a tea farm that they don't have a customer in Japan. So they're looking
Mm.
for a way to sell their tea. Unfortunately, that is the case with current organic tea coming from Japan. So
Mm.
Arahatan, for instance, they're a small farm. They don't need to get the organic certificates, but they are very controlled in how much of the things that they use and so forth. But they are not getting the organic certificate. But
Mm.
we get asked, okay, is this organic? And we have an answer mentioning about these are the number of the chemical that's been used, which is usually as below the certification line and so forth. But when you buy the organic tea, think twice about that. And again, think from what you really like and what it is. Don't get fooled by this organic term. Is
Mm.
want to mention. We have under the Dream of Japan, we acquired Shizuoka.com and Kagoshima.com where we sell organic tea. So
Mm.
people are looking for organic tea you can buy, and we can import organic tea legally. But
Mm.
we are very particular about which farm to pick for that organic tea because we know about it.
Mhm. That's very interesting that that's the case because I know um, with a lot of things, the organic standards too vary by each country with what they think can be like allowed. Um, do you think necessarily, or like, do you know if like the JAS standard for organic is stricter or around the same as like other countries that it's exporting to, or are there big differences in that?
Well, it is in terms of the USDA and JAS, it has an agreement so that once they get the JAS certificate, they automatically get the USDA certificate. So their line is compatible. But I
Mm.
understand that, for instance, in Europe, it will be a lot higher standard.
Mm.
So it depends on each country. And knowing the JAS standard and USDA standard, I think that's pretty fair. I don't know too much about other countries, to be
Mm.
honest.
Oh, it's understandable. I know very little about it. I know a lot about like the USDA organics, but not too much about other countries and what they're wanting with the organics, you know. So somebody just commented saying organic teas like Kamaraicha flood the market, but what we don't see enough of are like the variety that you don't have and get to export. Are there teas that you would like to bring over that you've had a hard time getting over here just because of certification, or are there other things like that?
Well, our tea are the ones that are hard to bring.
Mm.
So no other companies are carrying our tea. That is
Okay.
organic and so on and so forth. And we specialize in those area.
Mm.
For instance, you mentioned about the coffee. We also have coffee that is not too known around the world. This is a sumiyaki charcoal roasted coffee.
Mm.
So in Japan, it's very popular, but very few of them that makes a very unique coffee. Sumiyaki is a charcoal roasting, and that is a traditional way of cooking method in Japan.
Mm.
It heats it roasts using infrared, makes the bean to taste different. But
Mm.
in any case, so this is a tea session, but we are particular about bringing the ones that are hard to bring.
Mm.
So, if you are able to, if you are trying to source something from Japan, the best way is to probably find someone who can speak Japanese or, learn Japanese.
Yeah.
Because those hard to find ones are usually they don't even talk in English or they don't particularly care.
Yeah. Well, and Google Translate or other translate apps only get you so far. They're not really good for day-to-day communication. But we did have somebody that just said that they are intrigued by that coffee that you just showed off too, and they want it. So the tea and coffee culture in the U.S. really kind of piggyback off of each other in a lot of ways. So a lot of people that really like tea can either really like coffee. Some people don't, but I know that there's a lot of shared similarities, and one of our viewers happens to be one of those people. So people are interested. So along that, I just have another question here about like processing and things. Uh, are there any experimental teas that you know are going on? Things that are not necessarily traditional, but are things that you're wanting to try? Because I know some people do like I've seen like there's a Narishiko rose is what they call it, where it's like a Japanese post fermented tea. Are you guys aware of any other experimental teas that are going on, or things to try and get people more interested in Japanese teas?
Uh, experimental tea. So I want to mention these are very experimental that
Mm,
you don't find it anywhere. So that's one thing I want to mention.
mm,
I would suggest
mm,
something like um, there's like a genmaicha and genmai
mm,
matcha. If you haven't tried it, those are quite interestingly different from sencha or matcha that
mm.
you get. They we mix brown rice in it,
Oh,
and it's like this is genmaicha. It has
okay.
people call it popcorn tea because the genmai rice pops like a popcorn and makes a white
Mm,
particle in it, and it's quite an interesting taste if you haven't. And genmai matcha is just matcha with this,
mm.
so that's another. It's not really experimental, but it could be experimental for you if you
Mm.
haven't tried it.
Yeah, I really enjoy getting matcha, especially when you get it with the matcha, because then you get that nice like energy boost in the morning from the matcha, but you get that more kind of. I found that that toasted and puffed rice gives it a nice kind of mellow note that blends really well with the green tea. So I personally really like genmai cha. Let me think. Along that too, I know that there's one like soba cha, the buckwheat tea. Do you see like a market for that as an alternative? Because I know some people don't really do a lot of caffeinated teas. Are there other teas that Japan produces that are more like lower in caffeine, suitable for like kids or elderly or nighttime brewing, like soba cha?
Yeah, so much we tried it very recently, but it's interesting. Well, yeah. One thing I can think of is for the low caffeine hojicha, as I mentioned
Mm,
earlier, is getting trendy, and we are working on the hojicha powder. That's
mm,
very alternative people who don't want a caffeine in it. I recently tried the Matcha, which is
mm.
like a, but I don't know much about it. So sorry. Yeah,
No, you're good. That was another question that somebody asked is they don't drink a lot of like caffeinated teas or they can't drink them later in the days after like 4 o'clock is what they were saying. And so they were like, are there other alternatives that they could be drinking too? So like with hojicha that you just mentioned, can you kind of explain what sets that aside from like a sencha and what makes that more lower caffeine? Because people might not know about that tea.
yeah. So hojicha is yeah, it's like a brown color like this, and what the difference is that the green tea that you get, right? We roast it, um,
Mm,
and then that makes it brown. And by roasting, it kills the chemical of the caffeine and also different element makes it more roasty taste.
mm,
And if you taste it, it tastes very similar to like a European, to me, like a black tea, and
mm.
also a lot of Chinese tea that is pan fried. It tastes very similar to
Mm,
that. So, and I think this is getting more of a trend because, we start to see those hojicha, latte, and so
mm,
forth. So, and it's less in caffeine, so I can drink it even in the evening after the meal. And I'm pretty sensitive to caffeine, but I can still drink it at night. So that is what
mm.
hojicha is.
That's awesome. Thank you for explaining that because I know I have had hojicha before, but I all I knew about it was basically that it was roasted. So it's nice to know. Um, what is it? There's another tea I'm trying to think of. There's one that's mostly it's like hojicha, but it's mostly the stems. Forget what it start or what it's called. Yeah,
Kukicha is
cookie cha.
green tea.
Is that one that's lower in caffeine as well, or is that kind of okay? So
So
for
kukicha,
yeah, yeah.
mhm. Yeah, we
You want to explain?
Japanese green tea company don't have kukicha, but you find it under the Shizuoka Tea.com and Kagoshima Tea.com, which is two of the brands that we acquired. Some people particularly like those for the less caffeine part. So cookie is the stem. So usually the tea that you would be drinking is the part of the leaf, but it's steaming the cookie part, and it gives more of the augmented green tea taste. The people who like the taste of the sencha would love it because you can kind of smell a lot more of that, but overly aromatic, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, it's less caffeine, so that's one thing that you could try. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think sets Japanese teas, especially Japanese green teas, apart from, like, say, Chinese green teas or like Indian green teas? Is there something that you think is like a key defining characteristic of Japanese green teas that really makes people want that over other types of green tea?
Two things I can think of is the loose leaf tea is the steam. So after harvesting, we steam the tea, right? That's quite different from fermenting like a black tea or pan frying and so forth, right? Drying. So that steaming makes the tea, in my opinion, softer taste. So if you drink the sencha, green tea, Japanese tea, and then other type of tea, the sencha is more like a daily use to me, the softness of it that I like a lot. So that's one thing that I would say set aside, set apart from the other type of tea. When it comes to the matcha, definitely is very unique, right? So matcha, as you may know, that the name of the matcha comes from China, but the process of the covering of the tea before harvesting, that's what sets apart. For instance, the gyokuro is also covered. So what the covering does is that it makes the tea hungry for the sunlight and produces a lot of different chemical that sets a different taste from other tea. So matcha, gyokuro, we also have kabusesha, which is nozomi here. So the kabusesha is half of the time of the covering process. So half the duration of the gyokuro, and which kind of has the mixture of the regular sencha and the gyokuro. So this is something interesting. If you like gyokuro, you might want to try the kabusecha. But this covering process is very Japanese, and that is something that sets apart, I think, from other type of tea.
So, with that covering, was that something that they did to try? Like, I'm just trying to think of. Well, let me think how to ask this. Why do you think that process came about? Why do you think they started doing that with the Japanese green teas? I know, like, with Chinese teas, there's a lot of myths where people are like, this is exactly why we started doing this process. Is there something like that to explain why they started shading the teas, or is it just kind of, it started happening and people really liked it?
So what we hear, and it is also believed to be, but so the tea is originating from. There is a debate between either India or China, but anyway, it's India or China, right? We got the tea from China originally, and it was very precious back then. It's still precious, but it was only meant was drunk for the Buddhism monk or upper class people, and it was considered medicine. Emperor also drank it, but common people couldn't drink them in the past. So it was very precious plant, and so that historically that's what it was for a very long time until recent. And because it is very precious plant, during the winter time, the farmers didn't want the tea to die because of the frost. The Chakasava method I mentioned is one part protecting the roots, but another part was that they covered the plant with the cloth during winter time because it's so precious and they didn't want the tree to die. And after the covering, and then when they're about to pick and they taste it, and then, hey, tastes different. And that's where it started, is what we hear about it.
That's awesome. So to show everyone too, this is my third sip of the Isaku. You can see it's still going good. My filter, I usually, when I'm drinking it by myself, I don't care about the little loose bits, but I know like when I'm serving to other people, I do use a strainer just to catch everything else, or I use my Cusa that has the extra strainer. But I just wanted to show that off. It's such a gorgeous color and really such an amazing product. So one other question I'd have for you, and then if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to type those in the chat and I'll read them off. What are some things, or let us like one big thing that you want people to know about Japanese green teas that they might not know? Is there something that you really think people need to know that they might not already know? Or is there something that you think that, like, even if they do know it, let's repeat it. What do you think people should know?
Let me think. What do you want to know about it? Okay, so many people are not fond of the tea bag, and especially the people who love tea, but tea bags are getting better, and especially these pyramid type tea bag that we're using. And tea drinkers hate me saying this, but I often use these more often these days because it's easier. And the technology of these tea bags are also getting better, also how it's trained and so forth. So I wouldn't discount on the tea bags that are good quality. You might want to try it out and you might like them. And what sets apart is like it has enough space for steeping so that the tea leaf can come and open up. And you don't want one of those flat ones, but you're looking for this pyramid type. So, yeah, maybe that.
Yeah. So tea bags aren't necessarily a bad thing like everyone thinks they are. Or I know some people really think they're bad. It just, the type of the bag is what you want to really pay attention to. So things like that. That makes sense. Awesome. Well, that was kind of all of the questions that I had planned for you today, and I think we've had a really productive session, and we've gotten a lot of really great things answered. I'm just kind of reading the chat here. I don't see any other questions from people, but if they do, we can certainly plan another live stream again in the future, because I think this was really awesome, and you've certainly taught me, and I think everyone else, a lot about Japanese green teas. So I really appreciate you coming on here today and doing this live stream with me.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much. No, this was the first time.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we got it to work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Hey, well, I will go ahead and end the live stream here then. But I just wanted to say, oh, wait, here's one more question we just got in. What is your personal favorite tea?
It's like I'm going to drink now.
I can see why. I really enjoy this as well. I'm glad I have it because it is phenomenal. It's it's unlike any other Fukumuchi Senchai I've ever had before. And I think, like you said, that sugarcane soil really does make a big difference in the flavors. It's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate you spending your morning here. And happy Memorial Day to everyone in the U.S. And I appreciate everyone joining. And thank you for spending your morning.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, have a good one.